You'd think I'd be used to the quiet by now. 3 years on the night shift at Glen Oak Auto, and still. Some nights that silence gets so thick, I swear I can feel it pressing on my chest. It's not a fancy shop. Just a 3-bay garage tucked behind a liquor store off Route 63, about 20 minutes outside Bakersfield. One gas station coffee machine, one busted soda fridge, and a cot in the back if your eyes can't stay open. I'm 27. Dropped out of trade school after my old man passed, and ended up out here after burning through the last of my Nevada luck. Bakersfield wasn't much, but at least it wasn't home. I'd been fixing trucks and tuning carburetors since I was 16. Nights were simple: oil changes, busted struts, the occasional trucker looking to shoot the breeze while their radiator cooled off. But that night, that storm, it changed everything. It was past 3 a.m. Rain coming down in sheets, hammering the metal roof like angry knuckles. I was sipping coffee that tasted like burnt pennies when the bell over the bay door rang. A cab rolled in. Old Crown Vic, yellowed paint, one headlight gone and the other flickering like it couldn't decide whether to give up. She stepped out before I could even wave her in. Soaked to the bone. Mid-30s maybe. Long dark coat ripped along the sleeve, damp curls sticking to her cheeks. She looked over her shoulder 3 times before even speaking. "I need a headlight fixed." Now before sunrise her voice was calm, but her eyes, pure panic, wide, glassy, darting toward the road behind her. "Yeah, I got you," I said, setting my coffee down and grabbing a towel from the hook. "You want to step inside, warm up a minute?" She shook her head, lit a cigarette with a hand that trembled so bad she had to cup the flame. I knelt in front of the car. As I pulled the busted headlight out, she crouched down beside me. Her sleeve fell back a bit, just enough for me to catch a glimpse of dried blood near her wrist. I looked up. She didn't flinch. "I ran tonight," she said. "He came at me again, and I didn't stop him this time. I didn't know what to say. I'm not a cop, not a therapist. I fix things, that's it. Machines, engines, things with bolts and wires, not people. But when someone says something like that, you don't turn away." "You want to call someone?" I asked, voice low. "Ambulance? Police?" She took a drag off the cigarette, exhaled slow. "Number can't. If they find out what I did, they'll take my girls." That hit me harder than I expected. I didn't even know she had kids until that moment. But something about the way she said "my girls," like it was the only thing keeping her upright. It made the whole night feel heavier. I kept working on the headlight. Rain dripped off the edge of the garage roof. The radio fuzzed again like it always did when the weather got bad. A slow country song tried to fight its way through static, but gave up halfway in. She sat down on an old crate near the bay entrance, hugging her knees. Her coat was soaked through, and I could see where the fabric had torn along the back. It looked like it had been grabbed, hard. "My boyfriend," she said, almost too quietly. "He works security at a bar near the state line. Been drinking since noon. Told me if I ever left again, he'd make sure no one else could ever have me." I stopped working. She looked me square in the eyes. "So I made sure he couldn't have me either." I didn't ask what that meant. I didn't need to. She looked like a woman who hadn't slept in days. There was a red mark on her jaw, fading into yellow, the kind of bruise that tells a longer story. "You ever hit back before?" I asked. "Once. He made me say sorry for it." I tightened the last bolt and stood up. "This time?" She blinked, then looked down. He didn't get back up. The first time the black pickup passed, I barely noticed. Old Ford, matte paint, no plates on the front. It crept by the shop real slow, no headlights, just wet tires crunching over gravel. I figured it was a drunk driver trying to get out of the storm. But then it circled back. And this time it stopped. I glanced at her. She'd gone pale. Eyes locked on the rearview mirror. "That him?" She didn't answer, just stubbed out her cigarette and stood. The truck idled outside for a few seconds, just enough to set off the motion lights again. Then it backed up and parked across from the open bay. The wipers were off, but someone was in there, watching us, watching her. I took a breath, stepped in front of her without thinking. "You need to go," I whispered. "Now." She shook her head. "He'll follow me." "Not if you leave now." "Out the back." I reached behind the parts counter, grabbed the ring off my belt, tossed her the key with the old rubber duck charm still on it. "Take my truck. It's in the alley. Tank's half full. Just drive." She stared at me like I'd lost my damn mind. "Why would you do that?" she asked, voice breaking for the first time. "Because I don't think you'll make it otherwise." For a second, she didn't move. Then she looked at me, really looked, and nodded. She ran for the back exit, coat flapping, shoes skidding on the slick floor. I turned off the bay lights and waited. When I stepped outside, the man was already walking toward me. Broad shoulders, gloves, a leather jacket with a familiar bar logo on the back. "You seen a woman come through here?" he asked, voice cold and clipped. I met his stare. "Plenty of people come through," I said. "Night shifts, you know how it is." He didn't move, didn't blink. "She's got my car." I crossed my arms. "She's got something more important than that." We stood there, silent, soaked. Then he turned and walked off. I sat in the shop after he left, lights off, engine still echoing down the road. Rain softened into mist. I didn't move for a long while. I figured I'd hear sirens next, or tires screeching. Maybe a call from the cops saying they'd found her, or him. But nothing came. The garage felt different, empty in a way I couldn't explain. Like someone had ripped something loose inside and left the rest behind. I cleaned up the tools, washed my hands twice, scrubbed the floor where the water pooled, even though it didn't need it. Around dawn, I walked out back to where my truck had been. Gone. Just a few tread marks in the mud. I never reported it, didn't tell Doug, didn't ask for it back. 2 nights later, a deputy came by talking about a burned-out cab found ditched near the old sugar mill. No body inside, no ID, just a pair of kids' sneakers in the back seat and a woman's scarf tied to the gear shift. He asked if I'd seen anything unusual. I said no. Not because I was lying, but because I didn't know what the truth was anymore. Sometimes doing the right thing means keeping your mouth shut. I quit Glen Oak about a month later. Took a job at a body shop near Arvin. Daylight hours, honest pay, fewer shadows. Some nights when it rains, I still find myself staring out the window, watching for an old yellow cab or a black pickup that never quite comes into focus. Part of me wonders if I should have done more. Called someone, asked for her name. But I remember the way she looked at me, that second before she ran, like I was the first person in a long time who hadn't asked her to explain. I hope she made it, wherever she went. Maybe she's got her girls back. Maybe she's in a diner somewhere, sipping warm coffee, listening to laughter that doesn't come with bruises. And maybe, just maybe, when the rain taps the roof at night, she thinks about that night in the garage and says thank you under her breath. Sometimes the quietest people make the loudest difference. You don't need to be a hero to save someone, just someone willing to stand still when it matters. Kindness under pressure isn't weakness. It's courage that doesn't ask for credit. Long before I took the night shift at Murphy's General, I worked as a trauma nurse in Portland. I was 25 when I started, sharp, fast, and emotionally fireproof. Or so I thought. The truth is, hospitals don't just drain your energy, they quietly collect your grief. Every room held a moment someone didn't survive, and I watched too many people slip away while pretending it didn't leave marks. It did. I quit after my dad died from a stroke, 6 months after losing my mom to ovarian cancer. There's only so much loss you can carry before something inside goes quiet. So I moved to Cannon Beach, smaller town, slower pace, It was the kind of place people retired or passed through on their way to somewhere else. I rented a studio above a bike repair shop and got a job at Murphy's General, a 24-hour convenience store at the edge of the Pacific Highway. I worked nights, mostly alone. Murphy's wasn't fancy. One long aisle of snacks, a cooler that always hummed too loud, and a dim little back room full of half-forgotten stock. But it was clean. It was quiet. And I could clock in and zone out. For someone recovering from emotional burnout, it was as close to peace as I'd ever had. And then there was Mr. Walter Green. Every Thursday morning at exactly 1:30 a.m., he'd shuffle in wearing a cardigan and faded khakis, nod at me, and buy a can of tomato soup and peppermint tea. Always the same items, always the same rhythm. He spoke gently, his voice like a worn cassette tape. Soft, a little warped, kind. He used to talk about his wife, Ellie. She loved this tea, he'd say. Peppermint every night after dinner. I still make 2 cups out of habit. Sometimes he talked about how they met at a music festival in 1964. Sometimes he just stood quietly, smiling at the shelves like they reminded him of something he couldn't quite touch. Then one Thursday he didn't come. No call, no warning, just absence. A week later, I saw his photo in the local obituary section. Walter Green, 83, passed peacefully from complications of sepsis. Survived by no children, reunited with Ellie. I remember reading it twice, like maybe I'd misunderstood. Then I clipped it out and folded it into my wallet. I told myself I was okay. That this was the kind of thing people who work night shifts got used to. But I still looked up every Thursday at 1:30, and every time, the door stayed shut. The thing about grief is, it doesn't knock. It just sits beside you until you realize it's been there a while. After Walter died, things at the store went back to normal, or at least I pretended they did. I filled coffee pots, I stocked shelves, I rang up the occasional stoned surfer or exhausted trucker passing through. But the silence hit differently. The sound of the cooler humming, the clack of fluorescent lights overhead. Everything started to feel a little too loud, or a little too quiet. Every now and then, a customer would glance at aisle 3, Walter's aisle, and ask, "Wasn't there an old guy who used to come in around now?" "Yeah," I'd say. "Walter. He passed a few weeks ago." Some nodded politely. Some said sorry. A few didn't say anything at all. I started avoiding aisle 3 unless I absolutely had to restock the soup. Even then, I'd go during the daytime shift. It felt wrong to stand there at night. It was like the air changed. Heavier, like holding your breath without realizing. One night around 2:10 a.m., my coworker Marcus called in sick. I was already halfway into my shift and someone had spilled something sticky in aisle 5. Cleaning solution was in the basement storeroom. I'd only been down there a handful of times. The stairs creaked. The light was this single bulb that took a few seconds to catch. It always smelled like cardboard and damp rags. Not scary, just unpleasant. I grabbed the keys from the counter and headed down. The fan was buzzing when I got there, blowing stale air toward a stack of unused mop buckets. I shut it off and crouched to grab the cleaning supplies from a box labeled disinfectants and rags. That's when I heard it. "Emily." I froze. It wasn't a loud voice. It was a whisper. A slow, drawn-out one. But it was my name. I turned so fast I dropped the box. Bottles clattered. My flashlight flickered in my back pocket and I yanked it out. I scanned the room. Nothing. No footsteps. No shadows. Just rows of dusty stock and a broken mop. Then, clear as a bell, again, "Tell Ellie." I found her. I dropped everything and ran upstairs, locking the door behind me. No one else was working that night, and no one else knew that name. I didn't sleep the next day. I laid on my couch, arms wrapped around a pillow like it could keep the world out. I knew what I heard, and I knew how crazy it sounded. I didn't tell my manager. I didn't tell Marcus. What was I supposed to say? "Hey," the ghost of a regular whispered a message to his dead wife in our basement. Should we check the security tapes? Number, I kept it to myself. That night I brought my earbuds and played an audiobook the whole shift. Kept the volume just loud enough to drown out any whispers. I didn't go near the basement, but I did walk past aisle 3. And the strangest thing happened. That same peppermint scent, sharp and clean, hung faintly in the air. Not like someone had just opened a tea bag, more like the memory of it. It shouldn't have been there. We didn't stock it anymore. I'd checked. We only had spearmint now. New vendor. Still, there it was. Lingering like a thought you couldn't quite shake. Around 3 a.m., a woman came in, maybe mid-50s, tired eyes, beach hoodie. Bought trail mix and chapstick. At the counter, she paused. "This place always feel this heavy?" she asked. I blinked. "What do you mean?" She shrugged. "Just got this weird chill when I walked by the back aisle, like someone walked through me." I rang her up and didn't answer, because I'd felt it too. That night, after closing the register, I did something stupid. I unlocked the basement. I don't know what I was hoping for. Maybe if I faced it head-on, it'd lose its power. I opened the door, stepped halfway down the stairs and just listened. No whispers, no peppermint, just silence. I turned to go back upstairs and for 1 second, just one, I swear I saw someone at the top of the stairs looking down. Not a ghost, just a shape, a shadow. But it was enough. I slammed the door and didn't open it again for a week. The week after that, I told Marcus everything. We were in the break room eating vending machine muffins. He asked why I was jumpy all the time. So I told him. About Walter, about the obituary, about the basement. He didn't laugh, he didn't even flinch. Instead, he said, "You're not crazy. Grief messes with memory. It sneaks up in weird ways." Then he added, "But if he said he found her, maybe that's all he needed." "What do you mean?" I asked. Marcus shrugged. "Some people carry things past the end. Maybe he was looking for her, and now he's not." That stuck with me. I started thinking about Walter's stories, about how much he missed Ellie, how he made 2 cups of tea every night. Maybe he just stayed a little longer, long enough to say goodbye. The store didn't feel haunted after that. Just sad. Quiet in a different way. I still worked nights, still stocked the soup, but I stopped avoiding aisle 3. I even brought a tin of peppermint tea from home and placed it quietly on the shelf one night, like some weird little tribute. No one ever bought it. But the smell faded after that, and the whispers never came again. It's been 9 months since that night in the basement. The store's still open. I still work nights. Sometimes Marcus brings burritos and we eat under the hum of the break room lights. I don't hear voices anymore, no footsteps, no shadows, just the quiet thrum of a slow, safe life. But something changed in me. I stopped pretending grief could be boxed up and buried. It stays with you. It shows up in aisle 3 or in the scent of peppermint tea when no one's around. It speaks in the voices of those who never got to say goodbye. But now I think maybe some of them do. In their own way. Walter's gone. But he found her. And that's more than most of us get. Grief doesn't leave us. It changes shape. Sometimes what we carry becomes a message. And sometimes all we need is to listen long enough to let it go. I never expected Las Vegas to be my escape plan. When people think of this city, they picture glitter, slot machines, chaos. But under all that neon noise, it's just another place to disappear. And disappearing is exactly what I needed to do. My name is Ria Delgado. I'm 25, and for a while I forgot who I was. I met Shane through a dating app back in San Diego. He had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. First few months were flowers, slow dancing in the kitchen, promises whispered in Spanish like they meant something deeper. Then things shifted. He started picking fights over my friends, started checking my phone, telling me how I should dress, who I should text. I told myself it was love, just complicated. But love doesn't shove you into a doorframe and call it your fault. I found out I was pregnant after one of his silent weeks. Days where he wouldn't talk, just hover like a storm cloud waiting to break. That test shook me awake. I packed a duffel while he was at work and left without saying goodbye. I bought a bus ticket east, turned off my phone, and settled in Las Vegas with $200 and a friend's old contact. Now I work the night shift at a Circle K on East Charleston. It's not glamorous, but it's quiet, routine. I stock shelves, ring up snacks, clean up spills. My coworker Marcus takes his breaks out back, and I watch the door from behind the counter like it's a movie I've seen too many times. I like the silence mostly. It gives me space to think. I keep my phone on silent. No social media. I don't even use my real last name on the schedule. It's a thin wall between me and my old life, but it's all I've got. Then, one night around 12:45 a.m., I looked out the front window and saw him. At first, it was just a man in a hoodie, pacing slowly near Pump 3. I almost didn't register it. But when he stepped under the yellow light and tilted his face just enough, it was Shane. I dropped the scanner. He had found me. I froze. My first instinct was denial. No way. Couldn't be him. But then he tilted his head in that slow, smug way he always did when he knew he had control. My stomach dropped. The store lights buzzed overhead like always. The security mirror above aisle 1 reflected everything like a fisheye lens, making it feel like I was being watched from everywhere. I was. He didn't come in right away, just stood outside, staring, like the glass wasn't even there, like he could reach through it at any moment. I checked the doors. Locked. Thank God. My fingers shook as I tapped under the register. A small panic button, silent but direct, connected straight to the local police dispatch. I pressed it once, held it. Then I pulled out my phone and texted Marcus. "Don't come out. He's here." No explanation. He'd understand. A minute passed, then another. Shane finally stepped forward slowly and entered the store. The bell above the door jingled like it always did, cheerful, out of place. He went straight to the cooler, grabbed a bottle of water, then walked to the counter like nothing was wrong, like he hadn't erased 2 years of my life. "Didn't think I'd find you here," he said casually, setting the bottle down. But I always do. I didn't speak. I rang up the water, slid the receipt toward him, heart pounding so loud I thought he could hear it. He leaned in, real close, and whispered, "You think you can hide from me forever?" I kept my face still. Didn't give him fear. Just handed him the change and met his eyes for half a second. Long enough to say, "Not anymore." As he turned to leave, I looked straight up at the camera above the register, mouthed one word, "Help." A few seconds later, the back door creaked. Marcus stepped in slowly, holding his phone, screen lit, already on a call. Shane noticed. He paused at the door, muttered something I didn't catch, and walked out into the night like nothing happened. Just vanished into the dark. But I knew better. He wasn't gone. He just wasn't finished. The police came fast, 4 cruisers in total, lights flashing across the pumps like some kind of spotlighted crime scene. They didn't catch him. He was long gone by then. Vanished somewhere between the alley behind the liquor store and the overpass 2 blocks east. I gave my statement. So did Marcus. They asked me if I had a protective order. I said I'd had one in California but hadn't filed again since leaving. The officer, a woman maybe in her 40s, put a hand gently on the counter. "We'll start a report tonight," she said. "You'll want to file for a Nevada restraining order tomorrow. And don't be afraid to ask the store manager about camera footage and security options." I nodded. I didn't feel real. My body was here, but my head was somewhere else, half in the past, half trying to leap weeks ahead. I didn't want to imagine him coming back, but I already had. Every noise outside became a threat. Every man in a hoodie was suddenly him. After they left, Marcus stayed with me until shift change. Neither of us said much. We just sat in the break room, fluorescent lights buzzing, sipping burned coffee. "You okay?" he finally asked. I shook my head, honest. "No." He nodded. "Good, means you're still processing." That night I didn't go home. I checked into a small roadside motel off Fremont with a baseball bat next to the bed. The mattress felt like concrete. I kept the lights on. Sleep didn't come. The next day I filed the papers. Restraining orders are just that. Orders. Pieces of paper. They don't stop people who believe rules don't apply to them. But it was a start. A boundary drawn. I told the store manager. He took it seriously. Ordered upgraded cameras. Gave me a silent duress code for the register. "If anything ever feels off," he said, "you hit it. Don't think twice." That helped. But it didn't fix the fear. Nothing does, really. I went back to work 2 nights later. The world doesn't pause for trauma. Not when rent's due and you've got no one else to count on. The store was quieter than usual. Or maybe I was just listening differently. Every time the bell above the door rang, I flinched. It wasn't Shane, not yet. Just customers. A construction guy buying energy drinks. A girl in pajama pants and sandals grabbing tampons and Arizona iced tea. All normal. But I couldn't relax. The worst part of trauma isn't the moment it happens. It's the waiting afterward. The anticipation. The part of your brain that keeps scanning the corners of the room for something that might not come back, but might. Around 2 a.m., a guy came in wearing a gray hoodie. My hand went straight to the register keypad, fingers ready to punch the code, but he didn't even glance at me. Just paid for a pack of gum and left. That's the thing. Fear doesn't need a reason to come alive. It just needs a reminder. Marcus came in early, sensing I needed backup. "Do me a favor," he said. "Teach me the register tonight, just in case." He stood beside me for the rest of the shift. We stocked gum, restocked hot dogs, joked quietly about lottery regulars, but under all that was silence. The shared kind. The kind you get when someone's seen you scared and didn't try to fix it, just stayed. And that meant more than any police report. When my shift ended, I didn't rush out. I walked to my car slow, keys between my fingers, eyes scanning the lot. No Shane. Just dawn cracking the sky open like an egg, bleeding light over Vegas. It's been 2 months. Shane hasn't come back. At least not that I've seen. Maybe he moved on. Maybe he's watching and waiting. But I can't live in that space anymore. I still work nights. I still keep the panic button under the register. And I still sleep with the bat beside my bed. But I'm not frozen anymore. Fear doesn't go away. It just changes shape. It used to be a shadow outside a window. Now it's something I acknowledge but don't let rule me. I check the locks every night. I double tap the keypad when I'm alone. But I also laugh again. I also take my break on the curb, drinking iced coffee and texting my sister, asking about baby names. I don't know if Shane will ever try again. But I do know one thing. If he does, I'm not the girl who ran. Healing isn't forgetting. It's preparing. It's choosing to stay, to work, to laugh, even when fear still knocks. You don't have to be unafraid to be strong, just unwilling to give up, to give. Funny how fast life reroutes you. 1 month I was a sophomore at Mississippi State, pulling C's in business math and chasing baseball dreams. Next thing I knew, I was folding jeans into a duffel, heading back home to Amory, because my dad fell off the tractor and broke both hips. We had cattle, hay, a little land we leased out. No one else to keep it running. College could wait. Family couldn't. I picked up a night job at Fence Row Supply Company, a farming goods shop out off Highway 278 that had just started 24-hour service. The owner, Doug, didn't even want to stay open that late, but he said some of the row croppers liked buying seed and hardware on their own time, and he figured it was worth a try. Truth was, not much happened past midnight. I stocked shelves, ran the register when someone wandered in, and sometimes just sat near the radio, trying to keep myself awake. But it was easy money. And I liked the quiet. After long days tending fence posts and checking cows, silence felt like a friend. The place sat way out past town limits, surrounded by miles of cornfields and nothing else. Nights out there felt deeper, like the dark carried weight. No cell service past the register, and every time the wind kicked up, the old radio crackled like someone whispering nonsense through gravel. Still, I never felt scared, just alone. And sometimes, that's a comfort. Until that Sunday night. It was 12:52 a.m. I remember because I was writing it on the inventory log when the door buzzed open. The guy who walked in didn't belong. Long canvas coat, dust-crusted boots. His left eye twitched like he was blinking at a strobe light no one else could see. He didn't say a word. Just walked in slow and stood at the back near the old plow display we kept for looks. At first, I figured he was drunk, or maybe just tired. Long shifts can twist people up. But when I asked, "Need help with anything, sir?" he didn't answer. He just turned his head halfway and looked at me, and I swear on my mom's good name, that man's eyes had nothing behind them. The whole place felt heavier, like the air inside the store had changed the moment he walked in. I didn't move right away, just stood behind the counter, heart beating a little faster than usual. Maybe it was just instinct. Maybe something else. He stayed near the back, running a hand along the edge of the display like he was remembering something. Then he picked up a pair of old head shears off the clearance rack. The big kind, rust still clinging to the blades. He stared at them too long, then whispered, real low, something that made the hairs on my arms stand straight up. "She don't scream now." I felt my breath hitch. I couldn't tell if I misheard or if that's really what came out of his mouth. Either way, it was enough. I reached slowly under the counter for the panic button Doug had installed a couple weeks earlier, just in case. My hand was halfway there when I looked up again. He was gone. Not walking out. Not heading to the register. Just gone. I blinked, checked the cameras. The grainy black and white feed showed nothing. No one near the door. No one near the back aisle. Empty. Now I ain't a jumpy guy. Grew up hunting, fixing engines, putting up barbed wire in the dark. But this? This was different. I walked around the store with a flashlight, checked every row, every shelf. Nothing. I even laughed a little to myself. "You're tired, man. Losing it." Then I heard it. A clinking sound, metal on metal, coming from out back, the supply barn. That place had been locked since 10 p.m. I'd checked it myself, but the sound kept going. Steady, tap, tap, tap. I tried calling the sheriff. Phone rang twice before the signal dropped. I cursed, smacked the counter, tried again. This time it went through. "Burrow," came the tired voice on the other end. "Sheriff, it's Noah Eldridge. I think someone's out in the barn." Silence. Then, "Stay inside. I'm on my way." I hung up and glanced at the monitor again. And that's when I saw it. He was standing inside the barn, facing the wall, tapping those shears like he was trying to carve through it. I didn't wait. As soon as I saw him on that monitor, my gut took over. I grabbed my coat off the peg, bolted out the side exit, and sprinted to my pickup like hell was riding shotgun. My boots thudded against the gravel, heart racing harder than when I saw Dad on the ground after the tractor rolled. Behind me, the barn lights flickered once, twice, then cut out, pitch black. I threw myself into the cab, jammed the key in the ignition, and turned it over. It clicked once, then silence. Dead battery. My mouth went dry. No, no, no. I looked back through the windshield. The barn was dark. Too dark. Even the store's outside lights seemed dimmer, like something was pressing in on the whole place. I ducked low in the seat, trying to steady my breath. Tried calling the sheriff again. No bars. And then, just barely, I saw something move. Not from the barn, from the field behind it. A figure walking slow, like dragging weight behind them. One foot scuffed, then the other. long coat trailing like smoke. I fumbled with the glove box, grabbed my old mag light, and bolted from the truck toward the store. I didn't care about pride anymore, didn't care about keeping cool. I got inside and locked both doors, flipped every light switch and grabbed the shotgun Doug kept under the register. Still unloaded, but it made me feel less helpless. I watched the monitor again. Nothing. He was gone. No man, no field, no flicker. By the time Sheriff Burrow pulled up, blue lights washing the lot in calm, I was shaking so bad I dropped the keys to the till. He walked in slow, calm, like he already knew what I'd say. "What did he look like?" he asked. I described the coat, the boots, the twitch. Sheriff nodded, real quiet. "You ever hear of Jacob Ryland?" he asked. I shook my head. "Farmhand, died out here in '89. Wife bled out in the barn after he caught her trying to leave. Word is, he went quiet after that. Real quiet." He looked me square in the eyes. "You're not crazy, son, but you don't need to be here no more." Next morning I came back with Burrow and 2 deputies. Doug was there too, arms crossed, jaw tight like he didn't want to admit he believed any of it. We unlocked the barn together. It stank, like old rust and wet rope. Inside, the air was cold, despite the heat already rising outside. The first thing we saw were the carvings. Long, ragged scratches etched into the walls, as if someone had dragged metal across the boards, again and again. Then came the words, "Hush," written over and over in what looked like red chalk, smeared across one side of the barn like a child's tantrum on repeat. Burrow took a photo. One of the deputies dry heaved behind us. There were initials too, faded and low to the ground, like someone had carved them sitting down. ER over and over again. Doug muttered, "This ain't kids." We didn't say much after that. Doug closed the store that night, switched back to daylight hours only. Nobody argued. I told him I was done working nights. He nodded, didn't even ask why, didn't have to. The next few Sundays I drove by just to check. The barn stayed locked, the lights stayed off. But sometimes when I passed just before sunrise, I thought I saw movement behind the field line, just far enough not to be sure. It's been a year now. I went back to school part-time. Dad's walking again. Slower, but strong. We sold off the back pasture and got out of cattle altogether. Too much work for 2. I don't talk about that night much, not even to Mama. What's the point? People hear ghost story and tune out, say you're tired, or exaggerating, or just plain nuts. But I know what I saw, and more importantly, I know what I felt. Something broke in that barn long before I was born. Some kind of pain that never got spoken. Like whatever happened out there, to Jacob Ryland, his wife, whoever else, never healed, just echoed. Grief can haunt more than people. It can haunt places. So when folks ask me why I don't do night shifts anymore, I just smile and say, I like the morning light better. But the truth? I still hear that clink sometimes when I'm near metal. Still check doors twice, and I never ever say hush. Not all ghosts wear sheets. Some walk on tired legs, haunted by the silence they were never allowed to break. Always listen to your gut, and never ignore what tries to whisper through the quiet. I didn't plan on ending up at Stanley's Frozen Market, but like most things in my life, it just sort of happened. Dropped out of culinary school after my student loan ran dry. Spent a few months couch surfing around Flagstaff, avoiding my mom's calls and pretending I had things under control. One night I saw the job posting taped to a laundromat corkboard. Night shift, maintenance cleaning, no experience necessary. Perfect for someone who didn't want to be seen. Stanley's was a locally run warehouse store on the far edge of town, the kind of place where families bought bulk frozen peas and discount meat. They'd started staying open late to compete with the 24-hour chains. My job wasn't glamorous, mostly cleaning gunk out of freezer drains and power washing greasy carts, but it was quiet. I didn't have to talk much. That was enough. There were just 2 others on the shift that night. Kira, the manager's niece, and Derek, a twitchy dude who talked like a doomsday YouTuber. Kira was sharp, sarcastic, and kind in the way that didn't draw attention. Derek, well, he carried a box cutter clipped to his belt like it was a sheriff's badge. We were on freezer duty, full deep clean. That meant hours inside the walk-in, wearing those oversized gloves and stomping around in cold rubber boots, our breath fogging the air. Even before things got weird, something felt off. The back exit was barely hanging onto its hinges, and the alarm system had been down for days. Just keep the front door locked, the manager told us. But that night, the lock stuck, and the freezer light kept flickering, casting everything in this yellow humming glow like a dying hospital bulb. Kira joked it was haunted. The frozen man, she called him. Derek said he once heard breathing inside when he was alone. We laughed. You know how horror stories start? Like that. With laughter no one means and a door nobody checks twice. It was 2:20 a.m. when I saw him. Tall. Hood pulled low. Soaked hoodie clinging to him like skin. He walked in like he owned the place. Straight past the locked front gate, through the lobby, and down the back hall. No knock, no sound. Just a shadow moving through fluorescent light. We all froze. Kira was the first to speak. She stepped forward, calm, maybe even a little annoyed. "Sir, we're closed. Employees only." He didn't flinch, didn't even look at her, just kept walking. Slow, intentional. Derek stepped behind the shelf, hand twitching near his belt. "Dude doesn't belong here," he muttered. His voice wasn't scared yet, just alert, like a guy tracking an animal in the dark. I remember thinking maybe it was a homeless guy, or a drunk. Maybe he'd wandered in confused. We didn't want trouble, just wanted to finish our shift, collect our check, and forget it happened. But then he stopped, right in front of the freezer door. He mumbled something under his breath. I couldn't make it out, but it sounded like counting. Kira stepped closer. "Sir, I need you to..." And that's when he lunged. It wasn't a run, not a tackle, more like a bolt of rage, sudden, brutal. He slammed her sideways into the metal shelf so hard a box of paper towels exploded onto the floor. Derek yelled. I can't even remember what. I should have helped her. Instead, I ran. Grabbed Derek by the arm and dragged him into the walk-in freezer. My hand was shaking so bad I almost missed the handle. We locked the door from inside, then silence. You don't know cold until you're sitting on concrete in the dark, trying not to breathe too loud, while someone, or something, waits on the other side. The second the door shut, the light cut out. Pitch black, no backup bulb, no phone signal, not through 4 inches of industrial freezer wall. The only sound was our breath, and the slow creak of metal as someone twisted the handle outside. I pressed my back against the shelf, trying to steady my breathing. Derek was crouched near the door, box cutter drawn like it was a sword. He wasn't shaking. I was. He's not leaving, Derek whispered. I know. We're gonna die in here. I didn't answer. Couldn't. The words clanged around my head like loose screws. We didn't know if Kira was okay. We didn't know who he was. And worst of all, I didn't know what the hell to do. I felt around in the dark, found a rusted mop handle, a busted socket wrench, nothing useful. We'd trapped ourselves in a room with no exit and no plan. The handle twisted again. Then came the pounding, slow, steady, like he wanted us to know he had time, like he was enjoying it. It lasted maybe 30 seconds. Then nothing. Derek was breathing fast now. He's waiting. He's just standing there. I wanted to tell him that wasn't true, but I felt it too. That feeling. Like when you're sure someone's behind you, watching, but you can't turn around. The air in the freezer felt tighter by the minute. That's when I decided I wasn't going to die in that room. Not in the dark. Not with a guy who thought a box cutter made him invincible. And not without knowing if Kira was still breathing. I stood up, gripped the wrench tight in my palm, and backed up a few feet from the door. "This won't work," Derek hissed. "Maybe not," I said, "but waiting sure as hell won't either." I charged, slammed my shoulder into the door with everything I had. It groaned, latch cracked, pain shot through my arm like a live wire, but it gave just enough. Second try, it popped open. Cold air spilled out as I stumbled into the hallway. It was empty, but not clean. Blood, smeared across the tiles, not a trail, just drag marks. Fast, messy, like someone had been yanked. No Kira, no man. The front doors were wide open. Wind howled in through the broken lock. Rain swept across the entryway like ash. I ran out, yelling her name. Nothing. Then I heard a soft moan. Behind the dumpster, barely audible. I sprinted over. Kira, bruised, face swollen but breathing, unconscious. I screamed until someone called 911. The guy was never caught. No prints, no ID. Cameras glitched out. Static from 2:14 to 2:28 a.m. Like the whole thing never happened. Kira recovered, moved to Albuquerque with her aunt a month later. Derek packed up and left town. No goodbyes, just gone. And me? I quit that night. Didn't finish my shift, didn't clean my station, didn't say goodbye to the manager. I couldn't stand the sound of that freezer door anymore. I tried to forget. Really did. Got a new job bussing tables at a diner near campus. Started returning my mom's calls. Tried cooking again. But sometimes at night, I still dream of the walk-in. Only, in the dream, I never ran. In the dream, I'm the one holding the box cutter. And I don't know if I'm the one hiding, or the one pounding on the door. In moments of terror, who we are gets boiled down to a split-second choice. Fight, freeze, or flee. And no matter which one you pick, you have to live with it afterward. Survival isn't just staying alive. It's learning how to live with the version of you that made it out. Some people run to escape. I ran to slow down. After 6 brutal years in San Diego working at a tech startup where smiling was mandatory and burnout was a badge of honor, I finally broke. Not in a dramatic way. No collapse in the office kitchen or viral resignation letter. I just stopped showing up. Packed up my apartment, ignored my boss's emails, and went back home to Boulder City with whatever I could fit in my Civic. I needed quiet, and Redfield Community Gym offered it. The pay wasn't much, but the night janitor gig came with no meetings, no customers, and no fake cheer. Just me, my gloves, my mop, and hours of soft music echoing off tile walls. There was something meditative about it. Clean this, stack that, check the locker rooms, clock out. The gym closed at 10 p.m., and I usually stayed until close to 5 a.m. No rush, no one breathing down my neck, just fluorescent lights, lemon-scented disinfectant, and my music. My coworker, Miguel, usually covered the weight room side while I handled the pools and saunas. But that Tuesday, he texted around 8:30 p.m., said he had the flu and couldn't make it in. I told him not to worry. I didn't think twice. At 3:05 a.m., I was finishing the men's sauna corridor. I had just mopped around the back locker stalls when I noticed something off. One of the lockers was cracked open. I always check them before I begin. It's habit. I shut them all, wiped the handles. But this one, inside, taped to the metal door, was a note. Block letters, no smudges, no handwriting flourish. "You shouldn't be here this late, Lena." It didn't feel like a joke. It felt like a secret someone meant for only me. At first, I just stood there, staring at the note, waiting for my brain to explain it away. Maybe a prank by someone from the day shift, someone messing around, leaving cryptic little messages to freak people out. That's something high schoolers do, right? But something about the way it was written, the lack of handwriting, the way my name was printed so clearly, made my stomach twist. I reached for my phone, thumb hovering over my manager's number. Then I noticed the keypad lock next to the staff hallway. Busted. Wires hung out like someone had pried it open. That's when I took my earbuds out and really listened. Nothing at first. Then faint. The soft, slow scuff of sneakers sliding against tile. Deliberate footsteps. Near the pool. My blood turned cold. I ducked behind the showers, heart pounding like a subwoofer in my chest. I texted my manager. Possible intruder. Men's side. Calling police? No read receipt. Dead zone, probably. I considered calling 911, but I didn't want to overreact. What if it was just a maintenance guy or a trainer locking up late? Still, I unclipped the pepper spray from my belt, just in case. The pool deck was dim. Motion sensors were supposed to kick the lights on automatically, but they didn't. As I inched toward the bleachers, the air grew thick with chlorine and dread. Then I saw him. At the far end, crouched near the pool filter housing. Hoodie, black joggers, sleeves rolled up. I thought maybe he was fixing something, but he wasn't wearing any ID. He looked up. No fear, no surprise. "You saw the note, right?" he said, like we were in on something together. That's when I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. Not just tonight, maybe ever. I didn't ask questions, didn't give him a chance to say more. I turned and ran, barefoot against damp tile, each step echoing through the empty halls. I heard movement behind me, fast but not a full sprint. Almost like he wanted me to hear him, like it was part of some twisted game. I slammed through the locker corridor, heart thudding so loud it made my head ring. The staff exit, our emergency side doors, was just ahead. I grabbed the crash bar and shoved it open. Cold desert wind hit my face like a slap. I turned, slammed it shut, and yanked the emergency latch down hard. Locked. No one could come through unless they had keys. Then I ducked into the supply closet near the exit, the one we used for towels and extra mop heads. I closed the door silently and crouched under the shelves. I texted again. Miguel, my manager, even my sister. Still no service. I held my pepper spray with one hand and steadied my breath with the other. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Nothing. The sound stopped. The footsteps. The water filters. Even the outside wind seemed to go still. I stayed there until I saw morning light trickle through the bottom edge of the supply closet door. When I finally came out, the front doors were wide open. The pool lights were on again. But the man, gone. The police arrived 20 minutes later after my manager finally called them on my behalf. They did a sweep. Found nothing but some boot prints near the water filtration system and a few wires pulled loose near the electrical panels. Security footage? All glitched between 2:47 and 3:28 a.m. Just static, as if someone had known exactly what they were doing. One officer said it looked like someone had tried to manipulate the water filter system. Could have been sabotage. Could have been worse. They showed me the footage they recovered. A figure walking in through the back door that shouldn't have opened. Hood up, face down. No camera caught how or where he left. We never found out who he was. When I told the officers about the note, one of them raised his eyebrows. "Typed?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Means he planned it," he muttered, more to himself than to me. The gym stayed open. They installed new locks, changed the staff schedule, but I never returned to the night shift. I transferred to afternoons, where people are around, where lights don't flicker, where lockers don't whisper my name. Still, I kept the note, folded it up, slipped it into the back of my wallet. Not out of sentiment, but as a reminder. Because whoever left it didn't want me to call for help. They just wanted me to know they were watching. It's been 6 months. The gym still runs like clockwork. I still clean, still scrub tiles and refill hand sanitizer stations. Only now, I do it with sunlight on my back. The night crew rarely talks about what happened. Most didn't believe me. A few joked it was a bad dream. But I see the way they check over their shoulders now when they pass the sauna. And me? I check every locker, every time. Even the ones I know are empty. I still dream about that moment. Not when I saw him, but when he looked up and expected me. Like I was part of his schedule. I don't know what he wanted, or why he chose that night. But I know this. I trust my gut now. I don't apologize for fear. And when something feels wrong, when the lights flicker, or a door creaks without reason, I don't rationalize it. I leave. Your instincts exist for a reason. Don't ignore them just to appear calm, polite, or rational. If something feels wrong, even if it's quiet, even if it's subtle, trust yourself. It might just save your life. There was a time I played music for a living, or tried to. I used to chase stages, string together coffeehouse gigs, and open mic nights across the West Coast. Thought I'd make it someday. But someday ended on a 2-lane desert highway when our van flipped at 70 miles an hour outside Barstow. That was 5 years ago. I walked away with cracked ribs and a shoulder that never healed right. Lost friends, lost sound. Couldn't even listen to the radio for a while without shaking. After the settlement ran dry and the hospital bills stacked up, I stopped performing and stopped hoping. I just wanted quiet work that didn't ask too many questions. Cranefield Hills Winery offered just that. Overnight security, mostly alone, deep in the hills of Napa. The estate was all vintage charm, sweeping vineyards, and underground barrel cellars that hadn't changed much since the 1800s. The pay wasn't amazing, but the solitude? Worth every cent. On most nights I sat in the security cabin, watched grainy black and white feeds from 12 CCTV cameras, and walked the vineyard path twice between midnight and sunrise. If I was bored, I'd bring my guitar. But I never played it. That Friday was different. It was cold and foggy, a thin mist curling over the hills like breath over glass. At 2:40 a.m., camera 6, the one overlooking the old barrel cellar, blinked twice, then showed a flickering light. I knew I'd locked that door hours earlier. I figured maybe one of the winemakers left a bulb on, or a breaker surged. But something in me hesitated. I grabbed my flashlight, threw on my jacket, and headed down the gravel path toward the cellar. That place always felt too quiet, the kind of silence that carries memory, thick, still, waiting. When I opened the door, everything seemed undisturbed, except for one thing. A barrel in the center of the room, larger than the rest, glistened with moisture. A slow, steady drip traced down the side. It wasn't wine. It was thicker, darker, and etched just beneath the leak, barely visible under the dust and grime, was a name, L. Rivers, my last name. I didn't breathe, not because it scared me, but because something in that cellar felt like it had been waiting for me. I stepped back so fast I nearly knocked over a stack of crates behind me. My flashlight bobbed and clattered across the stone floor, the beam skidding past the walls like it was searching for something. My last name, Rivers, was common enough. That's what I told myself, could have been anyone. An old cellar master, a distant cousin, a coincidence. But the drip kept falling from the barrel in slow, deliberate drops. Plip, plip, plip. I crouched to examine it closer, trying to rationalize. Maybe just aged wine seeping from a cracked stave. But it didn't smell like wine. It smelled faintly metallic. Old. The cellar suddenly felt colder. I moved to leave, but just as I turned toward the stairwell, the thick wooden door above creaked shut. I froze. No wind. No draft. That door was heavy and stayed open unless you shoved it. I jogged up the stone steps, 2 at a time, and pushed against it. Locked. It didn't make sense. There was no bolt from the inside. I reached for my walkie. Dead. No static, no feedback. Just a soft click, like the signal had been cut. I checked my phone. No bars. Typical down here, but now it felt like more than just geography. I turned around and shined the light back down into the cellar. That's when I heard it. Faint, melodic, a humming. Low, slow, familiar. A tune I hadn't played in years. The first song I ever wrote. A simple chord progression I'd strummed on tour buses and basement stages. No one else would have known it. I stepped down slowly, heart in my throat. The humming grew louder, like it was weaving through the old tunnels just beyond the main barrel room, echoing off the stone. "Who's there?" I called out. No answer. Just the tune. Louder now. It was like the winery itself had memorized my melody and was now playing it back. I wasn't scared yet, but I was starting to feel like I wasn't the first rivers down here. The tunnel yawned out in front of me, carved from old stone and lined with antique sconces no one used anymore. It curved left, then right, disappearing into the mountain. They used to age wine down there in the early 1900s. Now it was just for show, part of the daytime tours. I hadn't walked the full length before. Tonight I had no choice. The humming was somewhere ahead, around the bend. It wasn't menacing, just familiar. That might have been the worst part. I clutched my flashlight, stepping carefully over a puddle near the old filtration tank. Cobwebs clung to the corners. The air was thick with mildew and something sharper, like iron or rust. Then the humming stopped. The silence that followed felt violent. I turned to go back, even just to bang on the cellar door until someone noticed. But before I took 2 steps, my light flickered, then went out completely. Pitch black. I stood still, afraid to breathe too loudly, and then, from behind me, a soft voice. "You never finished that song." I whipped around, swinging the dead flashlight like a club. No one there, no footsteps, no breathing. Just a long corridor and the slow drip of condensation off stone. I moved fast, half jogged, half stumbled down the tunnel until I saw a faint shaft of moonlight leaking through a rusted maintenance hatch. I kicked it open. Cold air hit me like a shot of espresso. I crawled out into the vineyard soil, heart pounding, knees scraped, lungs gasping for the night. I didn't look back. By the time I got to the security cabin, my hands were trembling. I checked the cameras. Every feed had frozen between 2:39 and 3:12 a.m., a glitch I'd never seen before. Just a gray haze like fog pressed against the lens. No backup footage, no alerts. I logged it, called the groundskeeper, told him the cellar door might have jammed, and someone needed to check the wiring in the lower tunnel. I didn't mention the name on the barrel, or the humming, or the voice. What could I even say? The next morning, while packing my gear to head home, I opened my locker and froze. Sitting on top of my folded jacket was a wine cork. Not an ordinary one, older, darker, with a faint seal pressed into the top. LR. My initials. The same font from the cellar barrel. I stared at it for a long time before pocketing it. I don't know why. Maybe I needed proof that what happened wasn't just stress or fumes or my past creeping up to play tricks. But I knew then I couldn't go back down there. Not even during daylight. I turned in my notice the next week. Took a job stocking shelves at a hardware store 2 towns over. No tunnels, no barrels, just concrete, fluorescent lights, and predictable silence. I've told no one. Not fully. They ask why I left. I say the hours were too long or that I missed seeing the sun. Sometimes I just smile and say, bad vibes. But at night when I lay down, I still hear it. That song, the one I wrote in my 20s, before the crash, before the bills, before the silence. Some nights I think about how the cellar knew it. Not the lyrics, just the tune. Like someone had buried part of me down there and was waiting for me to come find it. The cork sits in my desk drawer now. I don't look at it often, but I haven't thrown it away either. Part of me wonders if someone in my family once worked there. Maybe the L Rivers on that barrel was real, a relative. Or maybe, in some twisted way, the winery gave me back a piece of myself I didn't know I left behind. Either way, I don't work night shifts anymore. And I don't play that song. Some places remember what we try to forget. If you'd told me 5 years ago that I'd end up counting frozen meat crates in a storage warehouse at 3 a.m., I might have laughed. Or thrown a spoon at you, the dull kind. The ones we used to stir creme brulee with in the kitchen. I used to cook for a living. A damn good living, too. I was lean, obsessed with food science, ran kitchen lineups like a drill sergeant with charm. My girlfriend Lauren and I talked about opening a bistro in Fresno. French fusion, affordable, something warm and small and ours. She handled pastries. I handled the heat. We made a good team. Then I started falling apart. At first it was subtle. Longer shifts, quick bites between service, skipping breakfast only to binge dinner. Then came the mood swings. I couldn't keep up with the dream I built. I started gaining weight, then spiraling. Lauren would make quiet comments. I'd snap. She stopped smiling. I stopped showing up on time. Eventually she left. Then I got fired. 2 years later, I ended up here. Valley View Cold Storage. Night shift inventory. Alone most of the time. No heat, no pressure. Just cold fluorescent lights and silence. It was supposed to be safe, but then came the box. It was a standard return from a local grocer, marked customer complaint, foul odor. I slid it open on the usual processing table. Inside was a stained pizza box, but not a standard one. This one was familiar. The kind we used to use at the bistro for to-go orders. The top was caved in slightly, and I could see a slick red smear on the inside flap. I opened it. Maggots. Dozens of them, wriggling like a tiny white ocean, packed between bits of cheese and what looked like dried olives. I gagged. Then I saw the packing slip. Delivered to Dean Walker, apartment 19C. That was my address. I hadn't ordered food in over a month. I stared at it for a long time. I should have reported it right then. But something held me still. Some stupid part of me that thought, maybe this was meant for me. The next day I told Carl, my supervisor, and that the box had my name on it. He didn't really care. Just told me to log it, take pictures, and handle it according to sanitation policy. I sprayed bleach over the counter and tossed the whole thing in the bin. But that smell, that sweet, rotting tomato sauce smell, stuck in my nose all shift. When I got home, I locked both deadbolts and stayed up till the sun. Couldn't sleep, couldn't shake it. The next shift, I tried to forget. I pushed a pallet jack through the dairy aisle and inventoried a load of pre-packed macaroni cups. Routine soothed me. Check, log, sort, repeat. Then I did my usual camera check before break. That's when I saw her car. Blurry footage. Black Honda Civic. California plates. Pulled into the rear dock bay around 2:50 a.m. the night before. I paused the feed and leaned in. The driver never looked up. Head tilted down. Hair pulled under a scarf. A scarf I knew. Yellow and cream stripes with a tiny tear near the corner. Lauren used to wear it during prep. She said it kept her curls out of her face while she worked. She never came inside the building, not on camera. But she sat there. For 10 minutes. Just idling. I told myself it wasn't her. Could have been anyone. But the coincidence burned. That night, another package came in. No shipping label. Just a plastic container stuffed with rotting rotisserie chicken. Safety seals were cut. Inside was a folded napkin, a brand we only used back at the bistro, with one word written in Sharpie. Devour. I didn't open any more returns that night. Didn't finish my shift either. I texted Carl, told him I was sick, sat in my car in the parking lot until sunrise, clutching a cold thermos of coffee like it was a weapon. I didn't want to believe it. But Lauren, if she was behind this, what was she trying to tell me? Or worse, what did she want me to feel? The weird deliveries kept coming, sometimes every night, sometimes 2 or 3 in one shift. The third one was a block of melted brie, weeks old, seeping through wax paper like a slow bleed. It came wrapped in a lace handkerchief Lauren's grandmother had given her. I knew because I was there when she got it. Thanksgiving, 4 years ago. Lauren had cried. Inside the wrap was a Polaroid. Me, asleep, on my couch. That's when I really lost it. I filed a report with HR, then called the non-emergency police line. They logged it, took the photos, promised to flag it for review. Nothing happened. I changed the locks on my apartment the same day. A few nights later, I walked past the break room fridge during inventory and saw it. A sticky note, bright pink. Missing me yet? The handwriting was definitely hers. Cursive, slight slant. I took a picture and peeled it off like it was covered in acid. I didn't tell anyone this part, but I took the note home, burned it in the kitchen sink. Couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, the back door alarm tripped at 2:46 a.m., exactly the time Lauren used to clock in for her early pastry shift at the old kitchen. Only 3 people had that access code: Carl, me, and a night supervisor who'd been on vacation for 2 weeks. The system said code manually entered. Not a glitch, not a mechanical trip. I walked the entire facility, flashlight in hand. Nothing. No sign of a break-in. No footprints on the concrete floor near the loading docks. Just a low humming from the refrigeration unit. And for a moment, I swear, I could smell her perfume. Vanilla and something sharp. It was starting to feel less like a threat and more like a haunting. I started keeping pepper spray in my back pocket. Didn't tell Carl, didn't tell anyone. Just silently slipped it in every shift, along with my phone and keys. It made me feel sane, like I had some kind of control. The deliveries stopped for a while, or maybe they were intercepted. I never checked the inbound bins again. Let someone else handle the rot. But the quiet made me more nervous than the chaos. I'd stand at the bay windows between 2:30 and 3:30 a.m. and stare out into the dark, waiting for headlights. Sometimes I thought I saw her car. Once I thought I saw her, standing near the dumpster in a coat too thin for winter. But when I got outside, there was nothing but wind. My mind wasn't playing tricks, it was worse, it was remembering too much. Everything we'd planned, every time I lashed out and she took it, every dish I ruined when I couldn't stop eating. I wasn't innocent in our breakup. But I wasn't the monster she was trying to send back in these boxes, right? On a whim, I drove past her old apartment. It was empty, windows boarded. A neighbor said she'd moved out a year ago, didn't leave a forwarding address. Not even her name on the lease anymore, so if it wasn't her, who? Or maybe the better question was, what did I bring with me from that life that never died? I've been on the day shift for 5 months now. New schedule, new team. No returns come directly to me anymore. I keep my name off the logs, just in case. Carl still works nights. He asks sometimes if I'm feeling better. I nod, say something vague about mental clarity. I don't bring up Lauren. I don't talk about the pizza box, or the cake with her hair baked into the frosting. But sometimes, when I open the break room fridge, I swear I still smell burnt sugar. Like the top of a creme brulee right after the torch hits. And once, just once, I got a call at my desk phone. No ID, just heavy breathing. Then a whisper, "Still hungry?" I keep the pepper spray in my locker now. Most nights I sleep fine. Others, not so much. But I don't open my door after midnight anymore. Even if someone knocks soft. Even if they say my name. Because I've learned something working cold storage. Some things don't go bad right away. They wait, quiet, invisible. They rot slow. The past doesn't always come back loudly. Sometimes it spoils quietly, until you're forced to face what's been festering. Healing isn't just about escaping what hurt you. It's about owning the part of you that let it stay. They say nothing good happens after midnight. I used to think that was just something parents said to keep kids from sneaking out. Now, I'm not so sure. It was a Tuesday night in Camden, Alabama, the kind of town that didn't make national news and didn't care to. I was 26, working the overnight shift at Jackson's Mini Mart off Highway 41, the kind of place where the freezer hums louder than the customers talk. Most nights you get a couple of truckers, a tired nurse buying gum, or a local just needing a smoke and a microwave burrito. Me? I was there trying to dig out of student loan debt after dropping out of my graduate program in Birmingham. Long story short, Panic attacks, burnout, and tuition I couldn't stomach anymore. The night shift offered peace, quiet, enough money to pay rent, buy instant noodles, and not feel completely useless. That night started like all the rest. I had a half-drunk cup of black coffee sitting beside the register, a restock list half-scribbled, and an old rock playlist playing low from my phone speaker. Around 11:58 p.m., the bell above the door dinged for the last customer of the night. A tired-looking man with calloused hands and an oil-stained jacket. He paid for gas and a Mountain Dew. That was it. And then things got strange. At 12:45 a.m., a black Chrysler 300 pulled up. Not directly in front of the store. No. It rolled slowly past the pumps and parked just outside the frame of the floodlights, way out near the edge of the lot. No one got out. No headlights. No music. Just idling. I watched it through the camera feed above the register. At first I figured someone was lost. GPS rerouting or something. But 10 minutes passed. Then 15. The engine never cut off. No movement. I tapped my nail against the counter. Something about the stillness wasn't right. It wasn't confused, it was waiting. And I was the only one here. I kept staring at the monitor, even muted the music so I could listen for the bell in case they came in. But nothing. Just the Chrysler sitting out there like it belonged to the night. Then it drove off. Just like that. Headlights still off. Quiet tires pulling into the dark. I let out the breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Still, the unease sat in my chest like a cold stone. I didn't call anyone. What would I say? Hey, this car didn't do anything, but it gave me a weird vibe. I'd sound paranoid. So I shrugged it off, told myself I was tired. I finished my shift like normal, though I kept glancing out the front windows like a nervous cat. By 2 a.m., I was clocked out and locking up. My car was parked off to the side lot, where the cameras don't reach. Dumb mistake in hindsight, but it was closer to the side door and I liked ducking out quickly when my shift ended. As I walked toward it, keys in hand, I saw the Chrysler again. It was parked 2 rows behind mine. Same angle, same distance. This time I could make out the faint glow of something red inside, maybe a cigarette, maybe a dashboard light, maybe eyes. I didn't stop walking, didn't hesitate. I climbed into my car, locked the doors the second I was inside, and stared ahead like nothing was wrong, but I could feel it. They were watching me. I turned the key. My engine roared to life, louder than usual in the silence. The Chrysler's engine followed suit. Then it started moving, behind me. I didn't go home. Instead, I took a sharp right onto Willow Creek Road, a rural side street with 2 speed bumps and a diner that closed at 8 but always left its porch lights on. I knew I was being followed. I didn't need to guess. I checked my mirror every few seconds, each time seeing the same silhouette of a car just a little too far back to read clearly, but close enough to feel intentional. There's a feeling you get when someone's not just driving the same direction as you, but following. That kind of deliberate presence behind the wheel. The refusal to pass, to pull over. That's what I felt. I made a left into the diner lot and pulled into a space near the far edge. I got out, pretending to check my tires. A useless trick, but something to do while I looked around. The Chrysler pulled in behind me, not close, just a few spaces down. That red glow was still in the driver's seat. And then, the driver raised a hand and waved. Slow, calm. It wasn't friendly, it wasn't curious. It was a promise. I got back into my car so fast I almost dropped the keys. My hands were shaking, knuckles white as I gripped the wheel. I backed out, tires squealing more than I meant them to. Didn't care. I didn't slow down the rest of the way to the sheriff's substation. The sheriff's outpost was quiet. Just one cruiser parked outside and a sleepy-looking deputy sipping coffee when I ran in. "Something happened, ma'am?" he asked, already standing up. I tried to explain as best I could, without sounding completely out of my mind. "There's a car, a black Chrysler. Been following me. Was at my job earlier. I don't know the plate. but I think someone's watching me. He took me seriously. I'll give him that. He walked me back out to my car, flashlight in hand. Did a full circle around it. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Then he stopped. "Hold on," he muttered. He leaned over the windshield and peeled something from under the wiper. It was a folded piece of paper, small, clean, looked like printer paper, nothing fancy. He unfolded it, read it silently, and frowned. Then he handed it to me. In neat, looping handwriting were the words, "See you shortly." I think I stopped breathing. We filed a report. He took a few photos, asked if I knew anyone who might be trying to scare me. I said no. Not that I could think of. He offered to let me wait inside until sunrise, but I just wanted to get home. I kept the lights on in my apartment for 2 straight nights after that. I haven't worked a solo night shift since that night. The manager was understanding. Switched me to evenings, paired me with someone else whenever we ran short. I didn't press charges, I couldn't. There wasn't a plate, no face, no clear crime. But I know what happened. Sometimes I still think I see that Chrysler parked across the street from the gas station, just far enough that you can't be sure. Sometimes I think I hear footsteps behind me when I'm locking up. Paranoia? Maybe, but the feeling never fully goes away. I learned to trust my gut. When something feels wrong, it usually is. I carry a whistle on my keychain now, and I never ever walk to my car without someone watching from the door. But mostly, I remember that note. "See you shortly." It wasn't a goodbye. It wasn't a warning. It was a clock already ticking. When your instincts speak, listen.